Sports are sort of allegorical, analogous for war, right? In a lot of ways. It's a way of sort of competing without killing each other. So take wrestling, where we know it's not even remotely competitive. Now apply killing. We need the most effective fighting force possible. Just like I wouldn't send out a woman, for example, to wrestle Cael Sanderson. I wouldn't send a woman who can't do a pull-up, and that's the majority of female recruits in the military. I would not send her out to war.
Oh God, that shit crazy.
She doesn't lose a match.
Like, what's the point of lowering the requirements of physical strength that you need to get into the army or police force? When, like, it doesn't make any fucking sense on why a man has to be stronger physically to be a police officer and a woman can be weaker, but yet it's the same job and it entails the same amount of danger.
Loses her life, and so does the guy next to her relying on her. I think it's important, more important than diversity.
Again, I'm going to bring it back to the standard point. I think that's an issue with the standards we have in the military, in the police force. I think the standards aren't high enough. Again, I
agree.
We can argue like that there is a biological difference, but again, you're also talking about people have guns, they have a lot of technological advancements. Today's military technologically is off the charts. Like, it is crazy how much money we put into the military every single day, technologically advancing ourselves.
Sure.
So
I actually agree with the statement you just made. I think it's very important. Where you said, for example, guns, advancement, let's just say in firearms. That does equalize the playing field, right, in a lot of ways. Okay, so it's a perfect example. For the same reason I support women being able to carry firearms, and I actually support them carrying firearms because it's the only way to be stronger than a man. It's a mechanical advantage, right? Yes, we have advances in firearms. It's still the only way that a woman can overpower a strong man. Flip side of that coin, the police force, a woman will have to use a firearm. She'll have to use a weapon because she can't physically subdue a man. And that, I don't believe, is something where you talk about de-escalation. If you have to go to your tool belt because you cannot physically restrain a 250-pound man on PCP,
but do you
that's not a good
always
thing.
have to? Because I'm saying between
I feel what he's saying, but and that's why they got tasers also, police officers. So a female police officer, she could pull a taser out before she need to pull her gun out, which is fine. I feel like people need to be tased more often whenever it comes to police arresting them. But if it comes to a situation where she's trying to handcuff someone or they're face to face and the man gets aggressive or tries to attack her and she's not able to grab her gun or taser quick enough, then she's fucked. Unless she can find a way to somehow get lucky and manage to get it out while she's being attacked. But even then, she could still get the gun or taser taken from her and shot at her to where she's dead or hurt, or end up shooting herself in the process because of all the struggles and trying to get her finger on the trigger and this and that. It definitely, you can play devil's advocate as much as you want and be like, well, they got this and they got this and they don't got this and they don't got this. But at the same time, like, it's your life on the line or your partner's life on the line. If you can't manage to defend yourself or protect your partner, then you have no business being on the police force.
But do you always have to? Because I'm saying between men and women, I'm saying in the police force in general, like, I don't remember the exact number, so I can't really quote on this, but I know for a fact that there is not enough training on de-escalation. Like, they barely do any training on it at all. I agree with the statement that
I agree with you, they should train that robustly.
Okay. I agree that you're saying like men and women, like women are physically smaller, we are biologically different. But I'm saying in general, you can't put the whole argument on just women rather than putting it on a structural problem.
Right, and I believe the structural problem is because of the matriarchy and the problem with feminism trying to lower standards to accommodate.
That's just so annoying. Like, y'all act like men are just sexist and we just evolved to be sexist. Like, no, we've evolved to where it's a patriarchal society all across the world in many different countries before we even had communication with these countries. Because that's what we biologically go to. When we evolve, that's what we evolved to do. Men were meant to protect. Women were meant to raise. Like, that's what we have always fucking done. You can't blame it on a man being sexist whenever it's nature. If you want to get mad at someone, be mad at God for making y'all less physically strong. You can't get mad at men for playing their role, and you can't get mad at women for your ancestor women for playing their role on being good, submissive, nurturing women. Y'all always want to get upset about the patriarchy like it was just made to suppress women whenever it's literally just what we do evolutionarily. Is that the right word, evolutionarily? I think it is.
accommodate women.
But can't you say it's also sexism because it's the idea that, like I was saying before, like you were talking about in the military how a lot of it is there's a lot of things given to women, and it's like the men should be. We're talking about, like, for example, mental health, for example. Now we were saying that, like,
women are more likely to PTSD, be discharged.
but it's also because men aren't treated as seriously for it because it's like
that could be true. It's an inference, but I think your inference might be correct.
yes, that could also be, instead of saying because of feminists, it could also be because of sexism.
Towards men? Mm-hmm. You may be correct on that. I think it's probably a little column A, a little column B.
Yeah, that's what I
I
was
think
thinking.
we have quite a lot of data that shows that men tend to perform better under high compression stress scenarios than women in general. There are always exceptions to the rule. And it tends to be more traumatic for women. And then especially when you combine, right, sort of being on the receiving end of a traumatic injury in the military. Same thing in the police force. But you mentioned de-escalation. Now you wrestle. So you have some understanding of, I would say, controlling or subduing the human body, right? That's what all grappling arts are, whether it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, judo. I do believe that should be trained in the police force so that you don't have to use a weapon. I think
like wrestling, boxing, just like any type of mixed martial arts training needed to be implemented into the police academy for these officers to know at least how to defend themselves on hand-to-hand combat, and if they can't reach for a fucking gun or a taser.
I think that we need higher standards, as a matter of fact. I think every member of the police should have basic grappling capabilities so that they don't have to, for example, grab their gun or grab their taser. Now, de-escalation. I agree with you, that's very important. Here's what I would argue is the reality of de-escalation. You can only de-escalate if you have the nuclear option. What do I mean? You can't de-escalate with a large, strong, likely inebriated man who doesn't want to go back to prison if he sees a small, weak woman trying to de-escalate. He knows that he has a trump card and he can attack you. Statistically, it happens a lot. De-escalation can only take place with formidable capability. And women don't have that physically. As a general rule, not all women, and certainly most of the women in our police force today.
5 minutes later.
My thing is, I was talking to, I don't know where that guy went, but I was talking to him about something, and we were talking about how police need to be retrained. They get trained once, and then they go for the job. Men too, I feel like over time, he was giving the example, it wasn't me, he was saying like, police officer gets trained at a job, freshly trained, whatever, physically built, whatever. Years go by, he gets fat, he gets slow, you know, he doesn't get retrained, the training basically just leaves his head. I feel like, if you're talking about like that, it's honestly the same. It's like, I don't feel like...
No, I agree. I think that's terrible. I just don't think that the solution is a reverse nirvana fallacy of, well, then let's just lower the standards for everyone. I think we need to raise it. I think we're both agreeing we need to raise the standards.
That's what I feel like everyone feels like we need to raise the standards with policing. But once you start talking about women in that equation, talking about how that they're not really fit for the job because they're not actually physically strong enough to defend themselves or protect themselves or even lay down law, you know, that's whenever people start getting offended, and it's such a stupid thing to get offended by. That was a good conversation though. That lady had a good head on her shoulders. She was actually open for the debate. She was actually open to, with an open mind, she was open to change her opinions, and that's the stuff that I really respect and I appreciate, and I wish more people in the world were like that. But that's gonna be the end of that video. If y'all liked it, please like and comment. Please give your boy a subscription, and deuces.
Catch up. 10, 20, 30, let me teach you about a bundle. Give a free game, let me show you how to hustle. Real ass nigga, and I got it off the muscle. Niggas talk tough, but was never trying to tussle. If that bitch broke, give her back to the streets. In love with the bag, I can't fuck it for free. Heard he was hating, but down on